you say, "Yeah, God," and give him a round of applause? Yeah, God. So I heard about this lady who told her husband, she said, "Tonight is our anniversary. And last night I had this dream that you bought me a diamond necklace and matching diamond earrings. And then the next morning, a limousine took us to the airport where we flew to Paris for 2 weeks of romance. What do you think that dream means?" And her husband gave her a little hug and a kiss. He said, "Well, you'll find out tonight when I give you your gift." All that day, she could think of nothing else. Could he really be doing that? Could he really be going all out? Diamonds and a trip to Paris? And that night, after dinner at their favorite restaurant, he handed her a gift-wrapped package, really just the right size for earrings and a necklace and plane tickets. And she excitedly tore this wrapping paper open and opened the box, and she pulled out a book with the title, "How to Interpret Your Dreams." You'll know tonight. So today we're talking about the reality question. And as the wife in the story learned, our dreams really need to be rooted in reality. In this 10-part series, we're talking about how to see and how to seize your dreams. And you do that by answering 10 key questions about your dream. And we've said if you can't say yes to all 10 of these questions, the odds of you successfully achieving your dream plummet. And perhaps you have the wrong dream to begin with. We've talked about how this series is based on John Maxwell's best-selling book, Put Your Dream to the Test. And it's a seminar that we on the John Maxwell team, I've been on the John Maxwell team 6-7 years now. We teach this seminar in schools, we teach it in organizations, we teach it in businesses and in churches all around the world. Now, because we're doing this on a Sunday morning and I'm a pastor, I'm teaching all of these principles through our original Christian worldview, through our biblical worldview. So we're bringing scripture into this much more so than we would typically in a regular business situation. So this first week, we talked about the ownership question, which was basically asking, is your dream really your dream? Are you chasing the dream that someone else has for you out of obligation to them or some other reason? Or is your dream really your dream? And then last week we talked about the clarity question. Do I clearly see my dream? Do I see the big picture? Can I recognize what life will be like if my dream is realized? Can I describe it clearly? Can I draw it clearly? Do I see the whole forest, or am I getting lost in all the trees, all the details? So I've given you a little bit of homework to think about each week. If you have a dream, I hope you've been doing these homework questions. That's going to help you get closer to your dream. And a couple of the questions to answer, assignments, are really kind of helping you fine-tune these things. So, I mentioned at the beginning this week we're talking about the reality question. What's the reality question? Am I depending on factors within my control to achieve my dream? If you're ready to hear what the Lord's put on my heart to share with you today, would you do me a favor and say, "Hit me with it, G, I'm ready." Awesome. So of course, dreams by definition are not supposed to start with reality, are they? They are supposed to start with sort of nebulous, larger than life, even fantastical ideas, right? They come from our deepest hopes, our deepest desires, our deepest fantasies, and obviously that can raise a valid concern. We have to say, is a dream worth pursuing if it has absolutely no chance whatsoever of becoming reality? Let me ask that question again. Is a dream worth pursuing if it has absolutely no chance whatsoever of becoming reality? And my answer to that is no. I don't think so. I don't think it is. If I had a dream right now, I'm going to go be the new quarterback to take Ben Roethlisberger's place on the Pittsburgh Steelers, that is a dream that has absolutely no chance whatsoever of becoming a reality. It would be foolish for me to waste time or energy pursuing that kind of a dream. So we talked last week about how we all have a limit of 24 hours in a day. We all have a limit of 7 days in a week. We all have a limit of 365 days in a year. And with that finite existence we're locked into, we don't want to waste any time, we don't want to waste any energy, we don't want to waste any other resources trying to chase down something we will never in a million years possibly catch. So here's the way I say it, a short kind of phrase that helps me remember it. Dreams that are realized are always rooted in reality. Dreams that are realized are always rooted in reality. Maybe you were told as a child that you could achieve anything you wanted to if you just believed hard enough and worked hard enough. That's the American dream, right? But in reality, some of your dreams can be realized, and some of your dreams just can't be realized no matter how hard you try, no matter how hard you work. So you might have to adjust some dreams along the way. I'll give you an example. If you've ever watched some of these reality singing and talent competitions, you know what I mean. I've seen people go on American Idol. I've seen people go on America's Got Talent. I've seen people go on the X Factor, and their whole lives, their closest friends and closest family have encouraged them to pursue their dream of becoming a professional singer. They've been told their entire life how wonderfully they sing. And they've been told to shoot for the stars. And the problem is, some of these people have zero talent. Zero talent. They can't carry a tune in a bucket, right? They have zero singing ability. Now, they are probably very gifted, very talented, very experienced, very good at something, but singing is not it. And of course, when the honest judges tell them this, they refuse to hear it. They refuse to believe it. And they'll get really indignant and say, I know I have talent. You're not going to convince me otherwise. And it's really a shame because they're wasting their life. They're wasting their time trying to accomplish a dream that has no footing in reality whatsoever. Now, if singing makes them happy, that's fine. They should sing all the time. Do you have a dream of singing? Man, sing 24 hours a day. Do you have a dream of being the next big pop or rock and roll superstar, and you want to spend all your time and all your money and all your energy to make that happen, but you don't have any talent whatsoever? It's not going to happen. Don't waste your time. None of their family or friends have given them a reality check. They've never told them the truth. Believing in your dream with all your heart just isn't enough. Wanting it desperately just isn't enough. To seize your dream has to be rooted in reality. So, for a couple of months now, we've been talking on and off about SMART goals a lot lately. That R in the acrostic SMART stands for realistic. If a goal or a dream is not realistic, it's not worth pursuing. Ralph Waldo Emerson said it this way: shallow men believe in luck, strong men believe in cause and effect. So here's the reality check time. This is kind of the fine print of dream pursuit, right? You got to read the fine print before you sign on to something. So here's the couple of things you need to be aware of. The journey will always take longer than you hoped. The obstacles will always be more numerous than you could have imagined. The disappointments will always be greater than you expected. The lows will always be lower than you thought possible. The price will be higher than you anticipated. And so with all that stacked against you and stacked against the fulfillment of your dream, it's vitally important that you are depending upon factors that are actually within your control to achieve your dream. That list is already daunting, even for realistic dreams. Now, I've told you, we're talking from a Christian worldview, so let me offer a little caveat to that statement. What I said obviously does not rule out God's supernatural or God's miraculous involvement in your life. And I have found that when I have done everything in my power, if I've also throughout that whole process been praying and trusting God, He throws in a little something extra for me all the time. Sometimes God gives us little miracles and little blessings along the way. He multiplies our giving. He multiplies our efforts. He smooths out some bumps in the road. He gives us a little boost to get over some obstacles on the journey. So when I say make sure you're depending on factors within your control, I just want you to hear this. I'm not saying ignore God. And I'm not saying do it all on your own strength. I just mean don't depend on a magic genie in the lamp showing up or a rich benefactor showing up who just wants to hand you $1 million or hand you your dreams. Those kind of super fortunate blessings that we would call a miracle are very few and they're very far between. That's why we call them miracles. If they happened all the time, we wouldn't even have a word for them. We just say, well, that's life. That's the way it goes, right? It's a miracle because it's rare. So, you seizing your dream is going to be mostly about you and your God-designed plan, your God-designed talents, your God-designed abilities and experiences and networks and the wisdom God has planted in you, and your spheres of influence and control that God has provided for you. It depends on who He created you to be. Of course, some guidance and some power from the Lord is always going to be involved, and it's always going to come your way whenever you are obeying Him and following His direction. He has promised to help you whenever things get tough. Look at Psalm 46:1. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in times of trouble. And then one of my favorite scriptures in the entire Bible is this one, Galatians 6:9. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Now that's assuming that you're working from this reality place, right? That this is really something God has called you to do. If you don't give up, if you trust God, if you keep going, you will reap a harvest if you don't give up. So here's the reality check though. If you can't carry a tune in a bucket, He is not going to make you the next Elvis Presley or the next Michael Jackson or the next Bruno Mars. I'm trying to hit every generation here. And no matter how hard you try, that's not going to happen. When you have the wrong dream, giving up is the right decision. You need to find the right dream instead. Reality matters, okay? So here's the challenge. You have to embrace reality while also not allowing reality to shatter your dream completely. Your dream needs to be able to bend without breaking and adapt without crumbling. This is the way I started. This is how I thought it was going to turn out. Well, reality kicked in, and that's probably not going to happen now. What's the closest thing to that I can get to, right? The more unrealistic your dream is, the more you will be tempted to depend upon things you cannot control for it to just magically or miraculously become a reality. So the trick is to learn how to balance the boldness of dreaming with the reality of your situation. My mentor, John Maxwell, puts it this way. You need to reach far beyond what you think you're capable of, but at the same time, base what you do on your strengths and other factors within your control. The Greek words gnothi seoton were once written on the pronaos, or the forecourt of the temple of Apollo in Delphi. And it means know thyself. You've probably heard that phrase before. Socrates, other great philosophers expounded on this idea. It's important to know thyself. Be honest with yourself. Know who you really are as you determine your best dreams. Your dreams have the best chance of passing the reality question if you truly know yourself. If you know your strengths and if you know your weaknesses. Now, I mentioned earlier in this series that God designed all of us differently. From conception through your mother's womb, even before He created the foundations of the earth, God had already imagined you and knew who you were going to be, who He was going to create you to be. So your strengths, your weaknesses, all these things, the diversity of spiritual gifts. We talked about that last week. The Apostle Paul says some of us are feet, some of us are hands, some of us are eyes, and so on. So you need to find out what you're really, really good at and then play to your strengths. That's what God designed you to do. So I like to say it and remember it this way. Everyone is a perfect 10 at something. You are a perfect 10 at something. Everyone is a perfect 0 at something else. Everyone has an area that they have 0 ability, 0 talent in. Golf would be one of those things for me. Your dream needs to be built on your strengths. So here's 2 reasons for that. 2 reasons to build on your strengths instead of your weaknesses. Most people get this backwards. We become aware of our strengths and we become aware of our weaknesses, and so a boss or a manager or somebody says, you should work on your weaknesses. Here's an area of weakness. You should try to improve that area of weakness and make it a little stronger. That's actually horrible advice. Why? Because that's a sure path to mediocrity in every area of your life. By not cultivating your strengths will get sloppy. your strengths will get less effective. Why spend all of your time and all of your effort just to bring an area of weakness up to now it's a little below average instead of terrible, right? Why do you do it if you're only going to make it to average when you could have spent that same amount of time and energy turning your already strong traits into traits of excellence, maybe even a solid 10 out of 10, right? So here's a couple of principles I want to make you understand or help you understand. Number one, strength building reason number one. Building on your strengths activates what's called the law of least effort. Back when I was a restaurant manager for a chain of restaurants called Bob Evans Restaurants back in the Midwest, I had a district manager named Fred Mazzarini. Fred used to drill into us what I call the Mazzarini maxim. And I know he didn't originate this saying, but he was the first one who ever said it to me. He was the first one who ever taught it to me. And if I heard him say it once, I heard him say it 1,000 times. And I was only a manager there for a year. So that's how important it was to him. He would say, work smarter, not harder. Work smarter, not harder. He wasn't saying don't be a hard worker. He was saying don't make your work harder than it has to be. Be smart and accomplish the desired results with less effort. That way you'll still have energy left to do other tasks as well. For example, let's say I had 10 large stones out here in the parking lot and I needed to move them to the back of the parking lot. I could pick one up and I could walk all the way to the other end of the parking lot and drop it, and I could walk all the way back and pick up another stone and walk all the way to the other end of the parking lot and drop it. Or I could grab a wheelbarrow, load all 10 stones into the wheelbarrow, and then walk once and then dump all of the stones. That's work smarter, not harder. Same job got done, way less effort to do so. So that kind of focus allows you to find your true purpose and allows you to find your true area of excellence. You've got more time and you've got more energy to pursue the really important things of life. And when you discover and then put into practice God's design for you and your life, what comes naturally to you, it becomes really easy to live your life's true purpose to your fullest potential. Work smarter, dream smarter, make sure your dream makes sense before you work yourself to death trying to achieve it. Here's a couple of discovery questions you can use to help you kind of find your reality-based dream. What things come easy to me but are harder for some other people that I know? Oh, well then that's an area of strength that's been designed and built into you by your Creator. Here's a second question. What project would I enjoy working on for a long time even if I wasn't being paid? What do you just have fun doing? What would you do if you didn't have to worry about being paid and you just could spend all your time doing this? What would you do? Number 3, what could I do in my life that I would greatly enjoy that would also help other people around me? We know that's a critical issue from God's worldview, the way God wants us to live our lives as followers of Jesus Christ. Whatever we're doing with our life, it's supposed to be helping other people along the way. What could you do in your life that you would greatly enjoy doing, but it would also help other people around you? Entertainer Pearl Bailey, some of you are old enough to remember her, some of you have no idea who I'm talking about, you can Google her. She says there are 2 kinds of talent, man-made talent and God-given talent. With man-made talent, you have to work very hard. With God-given talent, you just touch it up once in a while. So what would you rather do? Fight to develop skills where you have very little gifting, very little natural ability, or would you rather run with your actual strengths and talents and abilities that God's already given you? When we go with our strengths and we work in our sweet spot, the work we do is simple and easy. But on the other hand, when we're focusing our effort in an area of weakness, what we do always feels complex and difficult and draining, and sometimes it even feels impossible, right? And so to achieve your dream, focus on what you can control. Focus on your strengths. That's strength building reason number 1. Here's strength building reason number 2. Building on your strengths gives you the highest return. We can say the highest return on your investment. Success is not an event, it is a lifestyle. Dreams take time to come true. They don't just come true because a person does something well once or does something well once in a while. dreams are fulfilled when you perform to excellence day after day after day. And that can only happen if you're working in an area of your strengths. It will take all of the talent and ability and effort you can possibly muster for many days on end in order for you to achieve a really big dream. So developing your strengths, not your weaknesses, that's the most realistic way to do that. Remember when Michael Jordan was still playing basketball? He seemed to be able to defy gravity. It was unbelievable. It was astounding to watch. Certainly one of the most successful people to ever play the game. And then Michael retired from basketball and he decided he was going to give baseball a try. And he only lasted a year. He never progressed higher than AA ball. He batted only .202. He finished the year with 11 fielding errors. Certainly MJ would rather be remembered for his basketball career than his baseball career. And the truth is, people can only improve a God-given talent so much. Our potential for growth in an area of talent is usually only about 2 points on a scale of 1 to 10. So let's say I'm a little below average in a skill or a talent or an ability. Let's say I'm a solid 4 on a scale of 1 to 10. No matter how hard I work at it, no matter how much time and effort I put into it, I will likely never be any better than a 6. I'll be slightly better than average at that particular type of thing in my life, that weakness. Occasionally, an exceptional person, they might move up 3 points. They might become a 7. But here's how you answer the reality question with a resounding yes. You focus on your dream in areas where you already have strengths, where you're already starting as a 7 or an 8, right? And then with work, effort, training, practice, experience, you become a 9 or maybe even a solid 10 in that area of strength that you were already a little bit strong in because of God's design of you. That's when your dreams begin to come true. Is your dream built on your real habits? That's another question we need to answer. Because a dream only becomes reality as a result of your actions. And your actions are controlled to a large extent by your daily habits. In fact, some psychological studies estimate that up to 90% of people's daily behavior is habitual. Think about that, 90%. Most of the things we do are governed by habit, by routine. Think about how you start your days of the week. I wake up, I use the restroom. I shower, I eat breakfast, I brush my teeth, I drive the same route to work, and so on and so on. Have you ever had this experience? It's your day off, and you're driving, and you suddenly find that you've driven into the parking lot of where you work. You're thinking, why did I come here? It's my day off. It's because you're mindlessly going through the motions of the habit. Or you've been going one place and you end up taking a wrong turn and you're thinking, where am I going? Oh, it's because I'm used to doing this habit. Often our subconscious just kind of goes into autopilot and it takes us where we usually go, unless we command and give different instructions, right? So your daily habits, they impact every single aspect of your life, including health, wealth, relationships, contentment, and more. And the longer you practice bad habits, the greater the chance of a negative future, and the more difficult it's going to be to turn your life around for the better. On the other hand, the longer you practice good habits in a positive, disciplined, and focused way, the greater the chance your future is going to be positive. Aristotle said it this way: we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. If you want to be sure you're developing, emphasizing, daily practicing the right habits, you look no further than what Jesus himself told us in Matthew chapter 7. Look at what he says. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice, in other words, makes these a daily, unconscious kind of habit. This becomes your life. If you hear my words and you put them into practice, you are like the wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house. We get the metaphor, right? All the trials and struggles and temptations and difficulties of life will come and beat on you and try and knock you down. Yet it did not fall. Why? Because it had its foundation on the rock, on Jesus, on the things that Jesus taught us and told us to do. The habits we had built in our life based on what Jesus advised us to do. On the other hand, Jesus says, everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice, does not make them a daily habit, does not build their life on this kind of focus, is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. Again, the rain came down, the streams rose, the winds blew in against the house. All of these troubles and struggles and trials and temptations of life slam against that person, and their whole life falls apart. It falls apart with a great crash. What's he saying? If your most consistent daily habits don't line up with your dream, in this case your dream of being like Jesus Christ, but we all have other specific dreams as well, then you need to either change your habits or you need to change your dream. If you want to hold on to your dream, then you need to be prepared for a battle to change your bad habits, because a bad habit never goes away by itself. And I'll tell you, you've heard this story a lot. This is kind of the big focus of Annette and I's life right now. I weighed 412 pounds on the 1st of January. I weigh 244 pounds now. Annette has lost 71 pounds in the same time period. That's only happened because we changed bad habits that had been a part of our life for years and years and years. We had to be really focused about what we're doing. It's uncomfortable to change a bad habit. It feels unnatural at first to do something very different than you've always done before. So let me share a couple other examples about how unconscious many of our habits are. I want you to put your hands together and interlace your fingers. Kind of do this and interlace your fingers. And now look down at your hands. When people do this, they always, everybody say always. Always. They always put the same thumb on top. Always. Now, separate your hands and interlace your fingers again, but this time put the other thumb on top. How weird does that feel, right? Now, do this. Cross your arms. Look down. Which arm's on top? When people do this, they always, everybody say always. They always put the same arm on top. Now, uncross your arms, put them back, but try and do it the other way. Put your other arm on top. Feels really weird, right? Now, let's clap our hands a few times. Right? When people do this, they always, everybody say always, they always favor one hand as the main clapper and one hand as the main receiver. Right? Now switch and try and do it the other way. Doesn't that feel odd? It would take continual effort and conscious attention on your part to make that kind of consistent change every single time. Like every day for the next year, if I said clap your hands and you had to go, okay, I want to do my left hand as the clapper, not my right hand as the clapper. It takes conscious effort and attention to do that, right? It's how it feels to change any habit in life. Whether it's, I'm going to stop drinking alcohol, I'm going to stop smoking, I'm going to stop eating poison at McDonald's, I'm going to stop being a negative fault-finding person, I'm going to stop being a pessimistic person. But we have to be willing to make these changes from time to time in our lives if we want to actually be able to see, and even more importantly, seize our dreams. So isn't the effort to change a bad habit worth it if you know that that new behavior will get you closer to actually realizing your big dream from your life? The question we're asking then is your dream built on your real potential? You can't change where you're starting from. None of us own a time machine. We can't go back and change anything in our life. We have to start from where I am right now. Boy, it'd be much easier to be reaching my goal weight if I had never put on all that weight, right? I can't go back and do that. I have to start where I am now, who I am now, with what I actually have to work with now. So that's planting your dream firmly in reality. We've got to align our strengths, our habits, our potential, all in the same direction toward this ultimate fulfillment of our dream. And if any of them are out of alignment, we're going to miss the target every time. And so you have to know your strengths. If you say, Greg, do you know your strengths? I know my strengths. I know the things God wired into me. I don't go, woohoo, I'm awesome because I have this strength. I know where that strength came from. God built it into me. The only one that gets glory for that is Him. He's the one who said that's something you're going to be good at and that's something you're not going to be good at, right? That's God's decision. So I know what that is. So if I say I'm good at something or I have a strength in some area, I just want you to hear it. That's not pride on my part. That's recognizing God's design in me. He's the artist. So I know my strengths because other people I trust tell me the truth. And they repeatedly and consistently share with me, hey, this is a strength of yours. For example, I know I'm a pretty good singer. I'm not American Idol good, but I'm community church good. I'm a pretty good writer. In fact, I hope to do it professionally in the near future. I'm a good actor. I'm not a Hollywood actor or a Broadway good actor, but I'm a community theater actor. I'm a good public speaker. I'm a good teacher. I'm not John Maxwell good. I'm not Andy Stanley good, but I'm pretty good at it. And so visitors to our church, people from around the world, will come in and they're really intent about on their way out saying, man, that was really good. That was one of the best sermons I've ever heard. You're a really great teacher. All these kinds of really positive, affirming things. And so that's great to hear that. I know I'm in my sweet spot. I'm doing what God created me to do. I'm good at talking and taking a lot of complex information and then boiling it down to a big idea or a couple of big ideas. And so that way others I'm teaching, they can gain all of this knowledge that I've spent 70 hours researching, and they can get it in 30, 40 minutes, right? So now, when I think about those strengths, what do all those things have in common? And I say, oh, you know what? All of those things focus around me being a good communicator. And so God's primary strengths that He wired into me are all about me being a communicator. It's all about me being an educator. It's all about me being a coach of other people. And so I have some other strengths, of course, but those are my primary skills that are most connected with my ultimate dream in life. Okay? Now, of course, I also have 100 times more weaknesses than those strengths, right? For example, I am a terrible, terrible, terrible artist. Even my stick figures don't look like stick figures, okay? I'm not intuitively mechanical. If I can watch a YouTube video and see somebody give me step by step, I can usually fix something and do an okay job at it. Annette and I replaced the brakes and rotors on our car a couple of years ago. It took forever, and I never felt like I did it well, but we got it done. When I was younger, I was pretty good at football, I was pretty good at baseball, but I was always terrible at basketball, and I never got the hang of golf. I could go on, right? I have a ton of weaknesses, far more than the number of strengths I have, and I guarantee that's true for you as well. But God, of course, still works amazing wonders, even through our weaknesses, but we're going to always do our best if we're operating in our areas of strength. So if you're going to pass the reality question of your dream, you need to do an honest inventory of your greatest strengths and your weaknesses as well. You need to know your true potential and make sure you're building your dream on that reality. I can't tell you specific habits that you need to engage in to make your dream come true because I don't know your dream. And I don't know your strengths, and I don't know your weaknesses. I don't know the potential God has placed in you. But here's what I can tell you. If you know your strengths and you focus on them by doing whatever is needed to make your dream a reality, and you do those things consistently until they become unconscious, normal, daily habits, the chances are very high that you will be successful at achieving your dream. Did you know that Beethoven once had a great dream of being a great conductor? That's what he really started off doing. He wanted to be a conductor. And he was terrible at it. I mean, terrible. And I could share a whole bunch of disaster stories with you. We don't have time today, but if you're curious, you can look it up on the internet and hear some of the mishaps that happened in Beethoven's life as he tried to be a conductor. He was awful at it. And finally, his friends were able to tell him the truth and convince him, you need to abandon this unrealistic dream of being a conductor. And they convinced him. And so he decided, I'll stick instead to just writing symphonies, right? And I think we can all agree he knocked that symphony writing dream out of the park, yeah? So how are you doing when it comes to this reality question? Are your abilities, habits, potential, aspirations, are they all in alignment to improve the probability of your success? Or are you chasing a dream that you're not really suited for? Are you depending on luck? Are you depending on other people to hopefully give you the success that you're seeking? Are you counting on a miracle to happen to make that dream happen? If so, it's time to begin to tweak your dream, or it's maybe even time to choose a completely new dream, one that is firmly based in reality. So we talked about some of this the last 2 weeks. I sent you home with homework, like I said, 2 weeks in a row. We're starting to pull it all together now. So here's this week's continuing homework. If you haven't done some of this yet, I strongly encourage you to do it now. Number one, what is my dream? What is my dream? If you knew you could not fail, we talked about this. If you had all of the resources, all of the necessary stuff, what would your great dream be? Write it out, describe your dream. What's the end result? What's the big picture? Do that with as much clarity as you possibly can. Then number two, what is my starting point? That's where I want to go. That's where I want to be. Where am I right now? By comparison. Clearly define where you are now. And again, like we said, I can't go back 20 years to start working on my dream. Where I am right now, that's my starting point. Where you are right now, that's your starting point. Number three, what are my strengths and weaknesses? List out as many strengths and abilities as you can. Draw a circle around your top 3 or top 5 strengths. What are some things that you do better than all of the other things in your life? And everything that's not in that circle of your top 5, by comparison, is a weakness, right? So describe those top 3 to 5 abilities, talents, and gifts more clearly. Any dream you desire to reach has to be built on those strengths. You can build upon these few strengths to achieve your dream. That's the only way you can do it. Anything else will require you to depend on factors outside of your control. So you need to make adjustments to your dream accordingly. And then number 4, what are my current positive and my current negative habits? So here's how you do this. You make 3 columns. In these 3 columns, in the first column, you write all your current habits that appear to contribute positively to your dream. In the second column, you write all of your current habits that undermine your progress toward your dream. And then in the third column, you write new habits. It's not a habit you practice at all right now, either good or bad. You write some new habits you're going to need to develop to cultivate progress toward your dream. And if you're not sure how to go about doing that, that's what life coaches do. If you have a life coach, sit down with a trusted life coach or mentor who knows you well, or another person who has experience in your area of interest, and get their advice. Then there's a 5th thing. How long must I practice these habits to reach my potential? Right? You need to have a realistic expectation of, is this a dream that's going to take me 5 years to reach, 10 years to reach, 30 years to reach? Estimate how much work it's going to take for you to become the person who can achieve your dream. And verify then if that estimate sounds realistic with a mentor or an advisor or a life coach of some kind in your life. Right? That's how you do this. So, we've talked about the ownership question. Is your dream really your dream, or are you living a life for somebody else that's not really the life you want to live? If not, you need to get a new dream. We've talked about the clarity question. Do I clearly see my dream, or is it just this sort of nebulous thing? I say, oh, I'd love to do this someday, and you don't really have any idea of what it looks like when you get there. And then today we've covered the reality question. Am I depending on factors within my control to achieve my dream? Next week we're going to talk about the passion question. How passionate are you about this dream? Does my dream compel me to follow it? And if it doesn't, you've got the wrong dream. It's got to be a dream that you're so passionate about, it's just all you can think about. It's what you dream about when you're asleep. It's what you think about when you're awake. It compels you to follow it. That's what we're going to talk about next week. I hope you'll join us again. Don't forget to do this week's homework. In the meantime, that'll make next week's message make more sense, and it will improve your progress towards seeing and seizing your dream. Father God, I pray for everyone here today, those watching online, that whatever their dream is, they would make sure it's based in reality. It's based on the gifts and the talents and the desires that you built into them, that you designed into them. Help us surrender all of these other ideas, all of these other thoughts, all of these things that don't mesh with who you created and called us to be, and just completely surrender to what you have called us, created us, designed us to be. Help us find the dream you have intended to be in our heart from before you created the foundations of the world. Help us see that dream and help us put into practice the proper things to help us seize that dream. That's my prayer for everyone hearing this message today. In Jesus' name, amen.